in the chat box, and we'll try to, okay, recording in progress. So write down your questions and we'll be happy to answer, well, the questions at the end of the event. And well, I think all instructions completed. I would like to invite our guests for some opening words. So starting to Professor Odir de Lagostin, President of FAP Rio Grande do Sul and President of CONFAP. Welcome, Professor Odir, and be our guest.
Thank you, Camila. Good evening to those in Brazil, and good morning to all participants in Australia. I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to the State of Victoria for co-organizing this workshop with the aim of fostering partnerships between Australian and Brazilian researchers, especially those in Victoria. During the mission to Australia for scientific cooperation last year, I had the pleasure of visiting Melbourne, meeting Mrs. Andrea Voto Bernales, and touring laboratories at prominent universities in Victoria. I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Karen Sandercook, who I met virtually in December 2020, when our institution signed the Memorandum of Understanding. This instrument is vital in supporting research and innovation in both our nations. Finally, I extend my thanks to all participating researchers. Your experience and contributions are integral to achieving the workshop's objectives. CONFAP, the National Council of State Research Funding Agencies, is a non-governmental organization that represents state research funding agencies in Brazil, also known as FAPs. Along with CNPq, CAPES, FINEP, and NBRAP, CONFAP collaborates on joint activities aiming at capacitating researchers and supporting national research and innovation. In addition to its national partners, CONFAP also has an international presence, promoting activities with institutions in several countries in different continents. The agreement between CONFAP and the Department of Education aims to support joint activities for Australians and Brazilian researchers. Since the signing of the agreement, 3 editions of the Australia-Brazil virtual research collaboration have been organized, which are virtual workshops covering research topics related to global issues such as COVID-19, ocean, and food security. These workshops serve as platform for matchmaking and stimulate bilateral collaborations of early and mid-career researchers. The 4th edition will be held very soon. In addition to these events, a year-round research support scheme has been implemented to receive requests from Brazilian coordinators. It's worth noting that 2 projects have already received support from this scheme as a result of partnerships fostered by virtual meetings. Detailed information about this scheme will be provided later in this workshop. I wish you all a fantastic event, and I hope to see an increase in the number of projects supported by CONFAP and the Department of Education soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. And now I'll pass to Andrea Voto Bernales, our Education Director for Latin America at the Government of Victoria.
Thank you very much, Cami, and it's great to see such a big crowd today in our event. Thank you for being here. We are recording also to distribute or to share this video so that you can share it with colleagues later on. To complement what Camila said, and I'd like to describe a little bit our education ecosystem that we promote and position in Latin America. Our focus is regional, but I would like to highlight that our two main markets in Latin America are Brazil and Colombia. We have 10 world-class universities in Victoria and 12 TAFEs, which are technical and further education institutions, some of which have bachelor's degrees as well. We also have hundreds of private providers offering technical degrees and our famous English programs for all levels. Many of our researchers have historic links with Brazil, and our role is to support them and expand these collaborations. We have some instruments in place like the MOU between the federal government and CONFAP, which we will hear about now, but hope to envisage others in the near future. Victorian universities are well known for their excellence in research in key areas like health, water, environmental and energy, information and communication technology, among others. We also have state-of-the-art research infrastructure like the Australian synchrotron and dedicated research centers. We will insert our emails here in the chat to continue fostering links and connections between researchers from both parts of the world, so do not hesitate to contact us during the session. Thank you again, and over to you, Cami.
Thank you, Andrea. And now I invite Karen Sandercock, head of the International Division at the Department of Education, for a few words.
Thank you very much, Camilla and Andrea. Professor Delagostine, it is wonderful to see you again. And good morning, colleagues here in Australia, and good evening to those in Brazil. It is terrific to be back with you in a virtual forum, and I think this shows the deepening of the Australia-Brazil education and research relationship. It shows how important international cooperation is also in solving shared problems such as health and climate change. Over the last 50 years, we've seen an internationalisation of Australia's education and research system that has delivered economic, social and cultural benefits to us and those that we work with. And to take, for example, our partnership with Brazil, what started some years ago with a Brazilian PhD doing an internship here in Australia led to the creation of the Centre for the Internationalisation of Education Australia in the south of Brazil, which has become a hub for sharing innovative ideas between our countries. We're really keen to do more of that with Brazil and by encouraging the kind of forums that you're involved in today. Australia is really well recognised for its high quality research. We have less than 0.5% of the world's population, but we do contribute to more than 4% of all scientific development internationally. What's really interesting though, is that when we look at the experience of Australians and Brazilians working together, we are even more effective. Australia has a publication impact of 1.61. When we do joint Brazil-Australian research, our publications have an impact of 3.8, almost 4 times higher than the world average, showing the impact of what we achieve jointly. In the last 5 years, our countries have published more than 8,000 research papers together, and we're very keen to hear some of those successful stories from researchers in Victoria and Brazil today. It is underpinned by really strong government-to-government bilateral cooperation, as Professor Delagostine referred to. And we've seen that translate into research. The Australian Research Council has funded 57 projects that involve collaboration between Australia and Brazil over the last few years, particularly in physics and biological sciences. Since 2015, we've had an MOU with Brazil driving education, research and vocational education cooperation. And since 2017, an MOU driving science, technology and innovation cooperation. But particularly important and welcome, as Professor Delagostine referred to, is our MOU with CONFAP. And we have already hosted 3 virtual research collaboration events that have spawned multiple projects. And we want to continue this work. The next such virtual collaboration is only a few months away in June, when we'll focus on citizen data use and security. So there are many areas of work that we hope to expand between Australia and Brazil. I'd really like to thank the researchers involved for being part of that effort. We really welcome your ongoing collaboration. It has the strong support of the Australian government, as I know it does the Brazilian government, and as you can see, of our Victorian colleagues and others right across the nation. Together, we are very keen for joint collaboration that will increase the impact of research and build the strong people-to-people links that will drive that forward. So I wish you a very productive session. I look forward to hearing outcomes of the case studies and encourage your ongoing engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Karen. So now I believe we are ready to start our case study presentations. And for that, I would like to invite Professor Karen Parron. I'm sorry, guys, if I'm saying your surnames with the wrong way, but I'm doing my best. So Professor Karen from the Pontifical Catholic University of Paraná, and also President of Governance of Londrina's Health Sector. Professor Paulo Roberto Bignardi, also from the Pontifical Catholic University of Paraná, and Professor Rachel Hills from Monash University. They will be presenting the case study called Understanding the Impact of In Utero Exposure to SARS-CoV-2 on Child Neurodevelopment.
Thank you, Camila and Flavia, and thank you, CONFAP, for inviting us for being today in this event. I'm here with Professor Paulo Binardi on behalf of PUC PR and School of Medicine, and we are going to present this study who is being developed with Professor Rachel Hill, which is also here, and I will invite her to start the presentation so that we can discuss about the rational aims of the study, and then we'll switch between us to discuss about new challenges and opportunities that we have been facing.
Thank you very much, Karen. Hello, everyone. My name is Professor Rachel Hill. I'm a researcher from Monash University in the Department of Psychiatry. And I'm going to discuss our collaboration with Professor Bignardi, looking at understanding the impact of in utero exposure to SARS-CoV-2 on child neurodevelopment. And I'd like to first start by thanking Flavia and Camilla and all the organisers for inviting us to present this fantastic opportunity today. So just a bit of rationale behind our study. So we know from past epidemiological studies, they've shown that past influenza epidemics are associated with an increased risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in children whose mother was infected during pregnancy. So this has been shown across a number of studies across the world, mainly retrospective. And so we've been studying this for about the past sort of 10 years, and globally it's been studied quite intensively, particularly in animal models, to try to understand how these infections during pregnancy increase the risk for the infant to get a neurodevelopmental disorder later in life. And what we've uncovered is that it's mainly the mother's immune response that seems to be transferring across to the fetus and disrupting their early brain development. So when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the first sort of question that we thought of was, well, what is the impact of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in particular during pregnancy on child neurodevelopment? And we were particularly concerned because we know that this SARS-CoV-2 virus causes quite a severe immune response in the mother, and it's that immune response that we're particularly worried about in it crossing over and disrupting child development. So to this end, we established a prospective longitudinal study to monitor the neurodevelopment of children whose mother was exposed to SARS-CoV-2 during pregnancy. The main aims of this project were firstly to determine the risk that COVID-19 infection during pregnancy poses on the infant, with a particular focus on neurodevelopment. We also, our aim was to provide valuable new knowledge on biomarkers or risk pathways of neurodevelopmental disturbances. Now, these past epidemiological studies, as I mentioned, are mainly retrospective. And every time we sort of read through them, we thought, oh, wow, wouldn't it have been wonderful to collect DNA or some sort of biological sample to try to identify early biomarkers. So what we really wanted to do in this prospective study is to collect biological samples and see if we can identify biomarkers of long-term neurodevelopmental outcomes. We also want to understand how other pandemic-associated stresses may impact neurodevelopment. You know, this pandemic has affected every corner of the globe, and it's caused quite a significant amount of stress globally. And that is, of course, is very different depending on where you are in the globe. So another major aim was to understand the impacts of this pandemic on child neurodevelopment at multiple international sites and not just our tiny corner of the globe here in Melbourne, which is why we reached out to Professor Bignardi. So this is a summary of the study design that we established in close collaboration with Professor Bignardi and his team, and this protocol was actually published this year, so this is a joint publication between the groups. And basically, we are recruiting women who were exposed to COVID-19 infection during pregnancy and also age, socio-demographic matched controls. And our target recruitment is 150 COVID-positive mothers with 300 matched controls. So this is the timeline of assessments. We are assessing children from birth and 3 months and then every year, hopefully up until 15 years. Collecting a number of different pieces of information, biological samples, neurological assessments, and psychological assessments throughout development. And I'll pass it over to Professor Bignardi now.
Yes. Yes. Beginning to describe a little bit about the partnership history, the study has been started at Monash University in 2020. But the first contact with PUC-PR researchers represented by Professor Bignardi was in October at the same year. So this was the first virtual meeting between the researchers to establish new goals about this partnership to open a new branch in Brazil. And in November 2021, PUC-PR researchers have participated in the virtual research collaborative event promoted by CONFAP, which opens for us a new possibility of getting additional funding to do some other data collected here in Brazil and to foster new insights and new aims that were not planned to be done here. Next, please. So in June 2022, the study was started in Londrina site, and in August at the same year, 2022, we have requested the support to CONFAP, which was approved in December. And the total amount funding that has been approved by Araucaria Foundation was 100,000 reais, which will be really great to go further for new insights and also aims. And now, in terms of the support status, we are waiting for the contract establishment so that we can actually receive the funding and then go further for other opportunities. Next, please. In terms of what are the main challenges that we have been facing in Brazilian side, first of all, we had to establish a partnership with the public health system to get access and to address the obstetric population, because we need to get the access to pregnant woman with COVID and no COVID. And also we need to have rational and reliable data about vaccination and all other information about their health status, so that we can control these information as covariants within the study. And another challenge was that not every instruments that were proposed at the original study have been translated and validated to Brazilian population. So we need to open new research projects to address this issue, such as the maternal postnatal scale attachment scale that has not been translated to Brazilian population, and it's a crucial measure to be addressed in these children at the first year of age. And we also need to adapt the protocol to the local reality of our country and our region as well.
Thanks, Karen. So some of the challenges at the Monash site, we had quite severe hospital restrictions that meant that we weren't actually allowed to bring mothers and children back into the hospital for some of their follow-up visits. So we worked very closely with some real leaders in obstetrics at Monash Health in terms of doing online assessments, and we were able to adapt to that quite quickly using Zoom calls. We also sort of had obviously this mass influx of vaccination increases. So vaccination status had to be introduced as an additional variable. And this is all recorded very meticulously so that we understand sort of which vaccination they've had, how many doses, and at what time point, whether it was during pregnancy or after. So just touching on some outcomes so far, I love showing data, but I understand that this looks quite complex at the outset, but I'll walk you through it. So this is some data that we recently published this year from the Monash site. We were able to collect some DNA samples from the children who were exposed to SARS-CoV-2, and we were able to look at different gene pathways and how they were altered by SARS-CoV-2. What we found, which was really quite amazing, was that the gene pathways that were altered in the children exposed to SARS-CoV-2 are pathways involved in brain development. So I don't expect any of you to understand all of these gene names. The main take-home message is that they're all involved in sort of pathways to do with brain development. Now, this is very interesting, but we have to remember this is from actually quite a small sample size. And what we really need to do is repeat this analysis with larger sample size. And I've been in close contact with Professor Bignardi, and he's going to be sending DNA samples across so that we can do exactly the same analysis on the same equipment that we have here at Monash, so that we can repeat this. It's also important to note that these DNA changes, we know that a lot of things in the environment can cause these changes. And so it's important to have a replication at a site that has a very different environment to the Melbourne site to really understand if this is actually due to SARS-CoV-2. It's also important that we understand whether these changes in DNA actually associate with alterations in child behavioural outcomes later on. So I've just graphed a few outcomes. These are very preliminary data from 12 months of age. And you can see our sample size is not very big yet. The control here are the blue group. The pink group are babies whose mother had quite a mild course of COVID-19. And the red group are babies whose mother had quite a severe course. We use a WHO or World Health Organization scale, ordinal 7-point scale, to measure this. And basically all the mothers in the severe group were hospitalized for COVID-19. So I've just pulled out a few of the behavioural domains here, being general motor, communication, problem solving, and personal social. We can see that there's no statistical group differences as yet, but what we can also see is there's quite a lot of variability, and there's quite a lot of spread in the data. And if you particularly look at this red group, the data are quite variable here. And again, this just really points out that we need replication, we need more numbers. And it's really important that we do this in a different site to Melbourne, where the environment that impacts a lot of these behaviours is quite different. So just overall significance of the study. So the data set will firstly provide us with a realistic indication as to whether we are facing a global surge in neurodevelopmental disorders. And this will have significant implications for strategic planning in the mental health and paediatric sectors and for long-term monitoring of children globally. Secondly, and as Karen mentioned, we're taking quite a lot of records on the severity and the timing of the maternal illness, and it's modelled onto the child's neurodevelopmental trajectory. And this will provide new information on how severe the infection needs to be to increase the risk to the child, and whether there are actually specific gestational periods of heightened vulnerability to the child being infected. Finally, the broad range of clinical assessments planned will allow us to identify which domains of neurodevelopment are affected by COVID-19 exposure and further informing specialist attention toward these specific areas of concern. Now, overall, this resource that we're generating across both Australian and Brazilian sites can be further mined to address multiple research questions raised during this pandemic, in addition to our immediate research questions. And this includes identification of vulnerable socio-demographic groups, comorbidities associated with SARS-CoV-2 infection, vaccination uptake, and population mental health and well-being during the pandemic across multiple diverse sites. And with that, I'd just like to thank you again for inviting us to present.
I would also like to thank again to everybody, to CONFAP, and to particularly to Professor Rachel Ryu for this great opportunity for us. Here in the Londrina site, we have nearly 10 researchers and several studies involved in this project. And I will invite Professor Paulo to give his final words for this presentation. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank you, CONFAP, for support, and especially thank you, Rachel, Professor Rachel, for support. The project is challenging for us, but Rachel's support is especially very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rachel, Karen, and Paulo. Now, the second case study called Collaborative Water Research, Knowledge Exchange between Victoria University, Australia, and the Tropical Water Research Alliance, Brazil. The case will be presented by Professor José Francisco from the University of Brazilian and also president of the Tropical Water Research Alliance in Brazil, and Professor Daniel from Victoria University.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, CONFAP and Victoria government for the here now, like that. Camila said, I am a professor of the Brazilian University and president of TWRA, Tropical Water Research Alliance. This association is performing around 206% are universities come from the public and private system from Brazil. We, in this presentation, will show our case of the alliance in the partnership with Victoria University. This relationship and we had an invitation like that, a meeting today by the Pontifical Catholic University from Rio Grande do Sul State, together Embassy of Australia in Brazil. And I, Professor Michael and I had got the first contact through this meeting. We get the opportunity to exchange our personal contacts. And after 2021, we had some meetings to find or figure out our affinities and which ways we could work together. In that moment, our colleague Daniel here offered us the opportunity to submit a proposal for the COALA. It was a really nice opportunity, and we had approved this proposal in February 2022. The COALA was important because it fostered our relationship, improved our contact, and during the 2022, we had another opportunity to contract in this proposal. Dr. Vanessa Hayes. Vanessa make a link between our organization. We association with the multiple institutions, and another way, the Victoria University is a unique juridic person. So this is a challenge that you have today. This first phase, we had many meetings defining some strategies to foster our relationship. During in the end of 2022, we had the important mission, scientific mission, like that Professor G said, we are together in this mission the last year. This mission was fostered by CNPq, Foundation of Santa Catarina Station, Foundation for Science of Santa Catarina Station, Araucária Foundation of Paraná Station, invest money for send research for this mission. And today we are finalizing our we had a strong relationship. In that moment, we try to put this relationship going on through proposal of project together. So we, in this presentation, we will make our insights or highlight that you would like to share with colleagues, how the difficulties and the importance of these initiatives for development between a partnership, Australia and Brazil. Here, our COALA, the COALA was between 2021, 2022, and here the last mission in the October. Here, Professor Odir, I'll host it today. For a moment. Here, the other decision makers, Professor Geraldo Pereira Jotze, he is a Dean of Innovation and Institutional Relation of Federal University from the Rio Grande do Sul states. Here, Mari de Fátima Guedes dos Santos, she was a president of foundation in Amapá state, and our colleagues from my colleague that we share this presentation today. Here, one meeting with the International Cooperation Office of the Victoria University, integration workshop between our research of the Alliance together, research from Victoria University, Melbourne Museum, guided by our host, nice host, Daniel. How are we organizing together activities and proposal? We need to understand our potential, work with foundations of long-lasting collaboration, and we define some refinement of understand between us through online meetings, hosting of postdoc like that Dr. Vanessa Hayes, symmetrical nature of partnership, like that Victoria University is a centralized partner, and TWRA is distributed as different universities, cities. It's not easy to converge actions because of this. The last one, developing the TWRA matching for international collaboration. It's not easy to go on proposals into the alliance because we need to distribute our opportunities for different research, different institutions, different point of view. So as a method, we propose a flow diagram to guide international collaboration into the alliance. It was developed during our discussion, and the first outcome, the partnership, which will be used for collaboration, in general collaboration in alliance that we will do between Brazilian, Australian, and research. So we have a method now. It's not as sorry because in Portuguese, but the most of things that you use in the alliance in Portuguese and English. So the last one finds that you speech our partnership, how we consolidate our partnership through MOU, like CONFAP, the first one MOU that we signed after association was performed. CONFAP, it was the first and allowed us interaction with FAP system of Brazil, converge the all FAPs of all states in Brazil. It's main important to get resource come from them. Today we apps and a few almost 1 week we have a large program approved by Foundation of the Goiás states with around 12 million Australian dollars, in Brazil 42 million reais. We have today 10 and VU and TWRA at the moment are in negotiation, internal negotiation processes, internal process in our institutions through a MOU between us. I think that this is an important step for our collaboration. We have almost 3 years of our collaboration. It's not too much. And my collaboration with Griffith University, the first products effective like that manuscript, we had around 5 years to get the first one. So I think that we are going well in our partnership. At the moment, I call Vanessa, I don't know, Daniel, he's probably...
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
Daniel.
nice.
Just, yes,
let's
we can.
go.
Okay.
Just a reminder, we are conscious of time. So if we have only a few minutes more for this case study, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, I'll be quick and I'll summarize some of these slides which will be sent around to you so you can read them in full. We're very happy to have had this opportunity to start a collaboration over the last year or so with the TWRA, and it's a collaboration which we feel through the ongoing online seminars that have been facilitated through Zoom and the visit, we should be able to build a long-term partnership for the next 5, 10, 15 years. One of the first projects we've identified, which is just an example, that we are continuing on, is research translation to policy of integrated water management knowledge in Australia and Brazilian context. So this was took quite a lot of investment in terms of time and discussion between the research research is to identify. So the goal of this is to investigate from a multidisciplinary perspective involving water management people such as myself, a social scientist, ecologists, and engineers, the obstacles to the implementation of integrated water management policies across Australian and Brazilian contexts. So this helps to utilise the strengths from both the Australian and the Brazilian side, because the reasons why good research that is created by ecologists, by social scientists, and by water engineers is not always implemented by governments and local authorities differs in each case. It differs across discipline. We have different reasons and different obstacles as to the implementation of this knowledge between disciplines, but it's also very different in Brazil and Australia. And so we hope to learn from each other through this process. So it's a research project that optimises the strengths of both contexts. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Some of the difficulties that we had that required a lot of investment and time is understanding the contextual differences between how the university systems work and how to pull together the alliances, and between water policy and the water industry in Australia and Brazil. So one thing we want to quickly stress is what we are trying to do is build longer and deeper institution to institution connections, not just individual to individual connections. That's the easier bit. But the question for us, that flowchart address, the process of collaboration we've had, the time we've spent together, is about how do we build deeper institution to institution relationships. There's also one of the big difficulties with the disciplinary boundaries and ways of working, the transaction costs of reaching across disciplines because we're multidisciplinary. This collaboration was facilitated by Zoom, which we discovered during the pandemic, but there are also limitations to that. So one of the best aspects of our collaboration so far, and I think it's a lesson for other collaborations, is the importance of spending time together when the contingent came in October. Time zone differences is probably something we're feeling now in terms of organising online seminars, presentations. There is a very limited crossover between Brazil and Australia. And then culture and communication styles across researchers from both countries. And we've had quite a lot of researchers involved in this collaboration. I guess that you know, in the workshops we've had up to 15 people. That's different, probably. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So on the right there, there's a photo of us in Melbourne in October. It was about 8 or 9 researchers from Australia and from Brazil. We are here trying to work out by presenting each other's work and having a series of discussions how best to pull together a number of projects from this collaboration. So one of the lessons we've learned is the importance of in-person visits. Very good for getting to know each other. Overcoming some of the obstacles I've just raised, but also a lot of the researchers also have heavy teaching responsibilities at university. So having the time for us to focus on just working together in the collaboration. And in the centre there, there's Professor Stephen Gray, the head of the Institute for Sustainable Industries and Livable Cities at Victoria University. So part of this collaboration has also been trying to move upwards through the university chains to get real institution to institution collaboration. And we also use this opportunity to overcome some of the different things like the rhythms of the academic year. For example, in Australia, summer is a long holiday and a lot of our university is away, so we've had to negotiate obstacles like that. So overall, we feel like in the last 12 months, we've pulled together quite a good range of possibilities for the next 5 to 10 years in that space. Junior. So we'd like to give thanks to Koala, the Council on Australian and Latin American Relations, and also to CMPQ who have helped to enable this collaboration.
Thank you. So now our last case study, I will pass on to Maricel, Manager of Partnership at the State Funding Agency of São Paulo, FAPES. and Silvio Tiziani, Director of External Strategy and Planning at the Australia Regenerative Medicine Institute at Monash University, presenting the case of a PESP Monash University collaboration seed program called FAMOS.
Thank you, Camilla. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. And I'll just share my screen if I may. Let me know.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
If it's working.
Yes, we can see your screen. It's not only, you should just pop into presentation mode, I guess.
I will. Good morning or good evening. My name is Silvio Tiziani. I work at the Australian Regenerative Medicine Institute at Monash University. And I'd like to also thank CONFAP and Camilla for the organising of this terrific opportunity to explain a little bit of the work that we've been doing predominantly with for PESP. I'm mindful of the time, because I think there'll be lots of questions after of all of the speakers. So we will keep in mind that the presentation needs to be brief. The program that Merrick Sell, my colleague from FPESP, and I will explain today arose from a long-standing relationship that we at the Australian Regenerative Medicine Institute have developed with a number of collaborators in South America, predominantly from Brazil and Chile initially. We called it the ABC network, Australia, Brazil, Chile network of researchers in regenerative medicine, developmental biology. And that ABC network has now been going for 5 or 6 years with a number of exchanges and annual joint symposia and visits to each other's country. During that period of time, the network has actually expanded to include a number of other countries. Argentina, Paraguay, Colombia have all joined the network, which is a coalition, if you like, of researchers in this sector. And with the usual mobility of researchers, it's now has members from North America and Canada, and so it's much broader. During this period of time, we at ARMI have always been keen to meet with various government agencies in South America, and for PESP was from Sao Paulo was one of the agencies that was most interested in our program, and this was facilitated by the Victorian Government Office, Camilla and her colleagues, Andrea before her, supporting that engagement. And it was during the period of the early stages of the COVID epidemic that FPESP reached out to us to suggest a program of supporting collaborations between Sao Paulo researchers, and in this case, Monash University, to maintain the links between our two collaborating parties in a time when research was made that much more difficult by the pandemic and the inability to travel between each other's laboratories and to exchange students and postdocs. And the program that we established, we call FAMOS, commenced last year. And it's a jointly funded program between Monash University and FPESP that provides matching funds for collaborative projects. And you'll see there that it's really seed funding to provide or to identify, support productive partnerships with the potential of leading to funding applications for those collaborators to either FPESP or Australian funding agencies. And this jointly funding program had some outcomes from our our perspective. Obviously strengthening the academic and institutional relationships, and also identify new areas of scientific collaboration. Scientific expertise is still shared, and complementary research capabilities and infrastructure are leveraged for greater impact of research. So all of the usual benefits of scientific collaboration.
Para que elas fiquem mais fortes, estamos explorando novas áreas de colaboração científica. A ideia era ter um vínculo mais forte entre a Monash University e a Universidade de São Paulo. Nós financiamos 10 projetos. Aqui podem vê-los de maneira muito geral.
Research, not necessarily translation. And those projects were funded for a 2-year period, and about halfway through their program of research, and are due to provide their first report for PESP. I won't go into the details of those projects, but you'll see that they're fairly broad, predominantly in the life sciences. The funding from Monash was provided by the Faculty of Medicine, and we really wanted to see that this program worked in concept before we broadened it out to other disciplines, other faculties, and for that matter, other universities. And we are confident that this program will be successful. And as Marixel will outline, we're very keen to engage with other universities, not just in Victoria, but certainly Victoria and elsewhere in Australia, to see if we can expand this program based on the good work that's been done so far in developing this template, but also the commitment from FPESP to expand it. I'll now hand you over to Marixel from FPESP, who will give you or provide to you the FPESP perspective on this project.
Thank you, Silvio, for this amazing introduction. You almost explained everything already, but I wanted to give a vision on FPESP as a funding agency. What was our objective, what we seek with this program. And basically, as already mentioned at the beginning of this event, research between researchers from Brazil and Australia has always existed, has always been excellent. And from researchers from the state of Sao Paulo, we've seen that there are mainly 4 main areas of collaboration: health sciences, biological sciences, environmental sciences, agriculture as well. So the collaboration already exists and is excellent. However, as a funding agency, we always have interest in expanding collaborations, not only in number, but also in scope. And we're interested in having long-term research collaborations. So one of the ideas with the famous program was, after going through the pandemics, and Brazil and Australia are really far away, so it's really expensive to travel from one country to another one. We have this time difference, so collaborations are sometimes, they go through some difficulties because of the distance. So after the pandemics, we thought about exploring other ways of doing collaborations, which would be more virtual. So with less traveling, less environmental impact, greater agility and flexibility as well. So this was an idea. It was like a pilot plan to generate preliminary results that could then develop longer term projects. So this was an idea, and it started in August of last year. And next slide, please. Yes, and yes. Oh, I think this is, yes, you can go to the next one, yes.
Yeah.
So The program was very, very successful. The research community in the state of Sao Paulo and Monash in the health sciences, they showed really high interest, and the quality, the proposals we received were of excellent quality. As Silvio already mentioned, we funded 10 proposals. And now we're expected to launch a second call because we know there is interest. Of course, we have to listen to the community and see what has worked, what hasn't worked, what needs to be improved. But we're open, as Silvio said, to go to other research areas, not just to focus on health sciences. We want to expand to other faculties, to other universities, maybe also give the opportunity of this famous 2.0 program to researchers, collaboration teams that already participated in the first program. So what we know for sure is that this program was really successful, that there is interest in the research community, and that we will continue to launch the second call. So this is what we wanted to share with you today. I thank you very much for the invitation as well to participate today here. Don't hesitate in contacting Silvio or myself for further information, for ideas. So yes, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you both for your presentation. Before jumping into our Q&A session, I would like to invite Flávia Cerqueira, advisor for international cooperation at CONFAP, to share information on the procedures for requesting support within the scope of the partnership between CONFAP and the Department of Education.
Hi, thank you, Camila. It's a pleasure to talk to you about this scheme elaborated by CONFAP and the Department of Education to support joint projects. The memorandum, as was in the beginning, as Professor Oji and said, the memorandum of understanding between CONFAP and the Department of Education was signed in December of 2020, and it aims to support collaboration activities between activities to foster collaboration between Australia and Brazilian researchers. That can be joint research projects, mobility of research students, seminars, workshops, and publication which promotes the result of the activities, and development and coordination of all the activities. Currently, we have two axes. One is the Brazil, Australia-Brazil virtual research collaboration, that is the virtual workshops mentioned by Professor G in his welcome speech, and then the joint support for projects. This slide is more orientation for the Brazilian.
Flavia, I'm still seeing the first slide.
Sorry. It didn't change for you?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna stop to share and share again the page. 1 minute. Are you seeing other?
No.
Can you
want me to open the presentation?
Me? Yeah, I think.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Let me share my screen.
Thank you, Camila.
Yep. Where were we?
Yeah, this was the first slide that I talked about the activities that is in the scope of the Memorandum of Understanding. And this one, I think, is the most important for the Brazil, especially for the Brazilian researchers, how they can request the support. It's important that the project, the research project or activity that means part of a research project, they must be approved by a research fund, university or research institute recognized by the Department of Education. So it means that first the project has to be approved in Australia. After the project be approved in Australia, the Brazilian coordinator have to send an email to CONFAP and to verify the support by the FAP of each state. But it can be a project that involves more than one FAP. And the CONFAP will verify with the FAPs involved in the project, the support. So the FAP will decide individually or in a partnership if they decide that, if they're gonna support and how much they're gonna allocate it in the project. And the FAPs are fostered to elaborate his own guidelines to better orientate the researchers to request the support. In the CONFAP's homepage, it's available the guidelines from FAPs, the FAP from Espírito Santo. So after the CONFAP receive all this information from the FAP, that means they are willing to support the project and how they're gonna and how much they're gonna support and how are the criteria. And the coordinator, this information will be sent by the coordinator and to receive the coordinator who will be prepare the documents for sent to the FAP. And the CONFAP will inform the Department of Education about the decision, the FAP's decision about the support. The next, please. These are main homepages. I think they're important for all the interesting researchers. The first one is the research funds recognized by the Department of Education. The second one is the CONFAP's guidelines to request the support. These guidelines in the CONFAP's homepage in the section Editais, call for proposal. And there is an email for inquiries. So please feel free to write to me about these partnerships as when you need in support. The next one. These ones are the two approved projects that we have so far. The first one is from the Professor Paulo Roberto Bignardi and Professor Rachel Hills, who are already presented in this event, assessment of COVID-19, the growth and development of children of mothers who develop this infectious condition during pregnancy, a prospective cohort. This project is supported by the Fundação Araucária in Paraná and the Australian organization known as 1 in 5. And the second one is creating cool spot eco-engine heat resistance intertidal community. Sorry for my English now. And the coordinators are Professor Francisco Carlos de Rocha Barros from the Federal University of Bahia, Professor Melanie Bishop, Macquarie University, and Professor Brendan Killer, South Cross University. It is supported by FAPESP and the Australian Research Council. Both projects were as main condition approved first in Australia and then later was the verified the support from these FAPs. The next one, please. Thank you. This is the email. You can contact me for any doubts related to the support between CONFAP and Department of Education. Thank you, Camila.
Thank you, Flavia. Well, does anyone has a question? We are running a bit out of time, but if you are happy to stick with us a little longer, we can answer 1 or 2 questions. Okay, so, well, anyway, if someone wants to send any questions by email, feel free to reach out to us. We have our emails on the chat box. So, well, I would like to thank you, everyone who has joined us today, and also like to thank our presenters for your availability and for sharing all these amazing cases with us. We do hope that this event contributes to further research links and collaborations between Brazil and the state of Victoria. And well, we will send you all the link to the recording in case you want to share it with your colleagues. And before, well, I'll pass on to our guests in case anyone wants to say a few words before finishing our event. And I also would like to invite you all to open your cameras so we can take a nice picture for our profiles, and everyone can post it on LinkedIn tomorrow. Are we ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Done. Do we need another one just to? Okay, thanks, Andre. So, well, thank you everyone again. If any of our guests and speakers wants to say a few words before we finish, feel free to open your mics and share your thoughts.
I would also like to thank everyone to participate, and also for the contribution we received from the researchers who already received the support from CONFAP and Department of Education, and also for information related to the scheme famous. CONFAP is open to engage new partnerships with Australia, especially with the state of Victoria. And we hope that this event can foster more projects, and I'm open to receive all the questions necessary to give the support. And soon this presentation will be available to be accessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Flavia, Camila, amazing moderators. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Have a great day, and see you in our next showcase very soon. Bye-bye. Obrigada. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Obrigada.
Bye.
See you.
Obrigada. Hey.